Welcome, curious souls. To Grey Vale echoes your portal to the world's most chilling mysteries and untold stories. Join us as we uncover the strange, the supernatural, and the truly unexplained. In the isolated shadows of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a terrifying legend took flight. Before disaster struck, a winged nightmare emerged from the darkness. Was it a cryptid, an alien, or a chilling herald of doom? Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The year was 1966. For generations, this quiet town, nestled by the Ohio River, had known a steady rhythm of life. People went about their days, their routines predictable, their nights generally peaceful. But that sense of normalcy was about to be shattered. A chilling series of events began, unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. Unsettling sightings of a winged creature with glowing red eyes gripped the town, tearing apart the fabric of everyday existence. This was more than just local folklore taking root. It was the terrifying prelude to a darkness that would forever change the understanding of what lurked in the shadows. The night of November 15th, 1966, started like many others for Roger and Linda Scarberry. They were a young couple, driving around with their friends, Steve and Mary Millette. It was late, past midnight, and the autumn air was crisp. They were just outside of Point Pleasant, near a deserted area known as the TNT area. This was an old, abandoned ammunition plant from World War II, a sprawling maze of concrete bunkers, access roads, and overgrown fields. The TNT area was already a place with a certain eerie reputation, a spot where teenagers sometimes went for thrills. But usually, it was just quiet and forgotten. As they drove along the dark, winding roads of the TNT area, a strange feeling began to creep into the car. The headlights cut through the inky blackness, revealing only the immediate road ahead. Suddenly, something caught their attention near the Old North Power Plant, a dilapidated structure looming in the distance. It was a pair of glowing red eyes. Not just any red eyes, but huge, fiery orbs, set on something massive. Something that definitely was not an animal they recognized. These eyes were utterly mesmerizing and deeply unsettling, fixed on their car from the side of the road. Roger, who was driving, slowed down, his heart pounding. Linda, Steve, and Mary were all staring, their breath held tight in their chests. What they saw next defied belief. As the car approached, the eyes seemed to belong to a creature, a towering figure that was standing on two legs. It was gray, almost brownish, with an incredibly large wingspan that seemed to unfold from its back. The creature was estimated to be 6 or 7 feet tall, far too big to be any known bird. Its eyes, those piercing red eyes, were unblinking and utterly terrifying. Panic immediately surged through the small group. This was not a prank. This was real, and it was horrifying. Roger instinctively hit the gas, speeding away from the creature. But to their absolute terror, the thing did not just stand there. It reacted with an unbelievable burst of speed. It unfurled its massive wings and launched itself into the air. It flew with a bizarre, almost unnatural grace, keeping pace with their accelerating car. The Scarberrys and Millettes were now in a desperate chase, their vehicle hurtling down the dark country roads, with this monstrous, winged entity flying right alongside them. The speed of the creature was astonishing. Roger pushed the car harder, trying to outrun it, but it kept up effortlessly, its immense wings beating silently. There was no sound of flapping, just the sheer, silent presence of this terrifying thing. It flew for a considerable distance, matching their speed, sometimes hovering just above their roof, its red eyes staring down at them through the windshield. The four occupants of the car were screaming, their initial shock turning into pure, unadulterated fear. They were convinced they were being pursued by something truly evil, something that wanted to harm them. The chase felt endless, stretching for miles. Finally, as they approached the city limits of Point Pleasant, the creature veered off, disappearing back into the darkness. Exhausted and trembling, Roger drove directly to the Mason County Sheriff's Department. They burst in, gasping for air, their faces pale with terror, and recounted their unbelievable story to Deputy Millard Halstead. Halstead, a veteran officer, had heard many strange tales in his career, but this was different. The sheer terror in their eyes, the genuine panic in their voices, convinced him they were not making it up. He noted their agitated state, the obvious distress. The four young people, still shaking, tried to explain what they had seen: a creature with wings, glowing red eyes, humanoid in shape but much larger, faster, and utterly alien. They described its silent flight, its relentless pursuit. Deputy Halstead, though skeptical by nature, could not dismiss their fear. He knew these young people. They were not prone to wild exaggerations or hoaxes. He followed them back to the TNT area, searching for any sign, any evidence of what they described. He found nothing in the dark, empty landscape, but the memory of their terrified faces stuck with him. He could not explain what they had seen, but he knew they believed it. The Scarberry and Millette encounter was just the beginning. The very next day, the chilling account spread like wildfire through the small community. People talked in hushed tones, some scoffing, others genuinely unnerved. But the skepticism quickly began to fade as other reports started to trickle in, then pour in, from various residents, all describing similar encounters with an unknown winged entity. The terror that Roger, Linda, Steve, and Mary felt was no longer isolated. It was becoming widespread. Just hours after the first incident, on the night of November 16th, a local couple named Raymond Walmsley and Marcella Bennett, along with Marcella's baby and her friend, were driving to visit friends who lived near the TNT area. As they approached their destination, near an abandoned igloo-shaped concrete structure, Marcella saw something large and dark moving in the shadows. It was almost 8 feet tall, with a massive wingspan and those unmistakable, glowing red eyes. The creature was standing right outside their friend's home. As they got out of the car, the creature began to shuffle towards them, its eyes fixed. Marcella froze, her baby in her arms. She screamed, dropping the child, and tried to run. Raymond and their friend were also gripped by terror. The creature seemed to be watching them, unmoving but menacing. They managed to flee into their friend's house, slamming the door shut. From inside, they could hear a strange, high-pitched squealing sound coming from outside, like a wounded animal or something unearthly. It stayed there for a while, scratching at the door, before finally disappearing. This second, equally terrifying account solidified the presence of something truly inexplicable in their midst. It was not a one-off hallucination. It was a phenomenon. Over the next few days, sightings continued to multiply, each one adding to the growing sense of dread in Point Pleasant. People reported seeing the creature near their homes, flying over roads, even perched on rooftops. Connie Carpenter, a local housewife, was driving home one evening when she saw a large gray figure with red eyes standing in the middle of the road. It spread its wings and flew straight at her car, forcing her to swerve violently to avoid a collision. Her encounter was filled with the same panic and terror as the others. The descriptions were remarkably consistent. A large, winged humanoid creature, approximately 6 to 8 feet tall, with a broad chest, no visible head or neck, its head seeming to be sunk into its shoulders. And most strikingly, those large, glowing red eyes that were often described as hypnotic or fiery. Its wings were massive, sometimes described as bat-like. But unlike any bat, it flew silently and with incredible speed. The absence of a discernible head and neck, coupled with the glowing eyes, gave it an almost alien or demonic appearance, further fueling the terror. Local residents began to feel a pervasive sense of unease. The small-town charm was slowly being replaced by a palpable fear of the unknown. People were reluctant to go out at night alone. Children were warned to stay indoors. The TNT area, once a place of adolescent adventures, became a forbidden zone, whispered about with a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. The creature was not just a fleeting image. It was a solidifying, terrifying presence that had invaded their peaceful lives, confirming that their understanding of the world might be far too limited. The news of these strange occurrences could not be contained. Local media outlets, particularly the Point Pleasant Register, a newspaper serving the community, quickly picked up on the story. The initial reports were cautious, perhaps even a little humorous, as journalists tried to make sense of what their town was experiencing. But as more and more credible witnesses came forward, the tone shifted. These were not just isolated incidents. A pattern was emerging. It was during this period of intense local scrutiny and widespread fear that the creature received its iconic name. A local reporter for the Point Pleasant Register, Linda Scarberry, not related to Roger and Linda Scarberry who had the first encounter, was looking for a catchy, descriptive name for the mysterious entity. Drawing inspiration from the popular Batman television series of the time, she coined the term Mothman. The name was instantly catchy, memorable, and slightly unsettling, perfectly capturing the strange, insect-like yet humanoid appearance described by witnesses. The name Mothman quickly spread beyond the pages of the Point Pleasant Register. It appeared in other local papers, then in regional newspapers, and soon, reports of the Mothman were making headlines across West Virginia and beyond. The media attention, while bringing some skepticism from outside the area, also validated the experiences of the local residents. They were not alone in their sightings. Their terror was being acknowledged. The public's reaction was a mix of fascination, fear, and disbelief. Some people dismissed it as mass hysteria or misidentification, perhaps a large owl or crane. But those who had seen it, those who had felt the icy grip of fear in its presence, knew it was something far more sinister and inexplicable. The creature became a recognizable, terrifying figure in the local consciousness, a symbol of the unknown that had descended upon Point Pleasant. Every rustle in the leaves, every shadow, every strange sound in the night took on a new, ominous meaning. The Mothman had arrived, and its presence heralded a profound change in the town's perception of reality. It was no longer just a cryptid legend in the making. It was a living, breathing nightmare for the people of Point Pleasant. The fear was real, the sightings undeniable, and the name Mothman was forever etched into the folklore of a town that had unwittingly become the stage for a truly unsettling mystery. As the initial terror of the Mothman sightings slowly began to settle into a chilling routine, the people of Point Pleasant, and indeed, the wider world, grappled with a perplexing question. What exactly was this creature? The first encounters had been undeniably terrifying. But human nature seeks understanding. Even in the face of the utterly inexplicable, this desperate search for answers led to a proliferation of theories, ranging from the mundane to the truly extraordinary. Each attempt at explanation only serving to deepen the mystery surrounding the winged entity. One of the earliest and most natural responses was to try and rationalize the creature as something known, something that could be categorized within the realm of familiar biology. Initial reports often sparked discussions about whether the Mothman could simply be a misidentified animal, a large bird perhaps, or some other known creature seen under unusual circumstances. Local experts, including ornithologists and biologists, were consulted, their knowledge tapped in an attempt to bring scientific order to the chaos of the supernatural. The most common suggestions revolved around large avian species. Could it be an unusually large owl? A great horned owl, for instance, can be quite imposing, especially at night. Some suggested a sandhill crane, a tall bird with long legs and a considerable wingspan. Others even posited that it might be a rare species of heron or an escaped exotic bird. These theories offered a comforting, if ultimately inadequate, explanation. They allowed people to cling to the idea that the world was still a predictable place, even if a strange bird had flown off course. However, as more detailed and consistent accounts poured in, these common explanations began to fall apart. The descriptions of the Mothman consistently defied the characteristics of any known bird. For one, its size was far beyond that of any avian creature native to West Virginia or indeed North America. Witnesses routinely described the Mothman as being 6 to 8 feet tall, standing on 2 legs, with an immense wingspan that stretched far wider than even the largest eagles or cranes. A great horned owl, while large, rarely exceeds 2 feet in height. A sandhill crane might approach 4 feet standing, but never 6 or 8. The sheer scale of the creature described by terrified eyewitnesses simply did not match. Then there were the eyes. Every single witness account emphasized the glowing red eyes, often described as fiery, hypnotic, or like bicycle reflectors. No known bird possesses such eyes, let alone eyes that emit their own light or reflect it with such intensity. This feature alone was a significant anomaly that immediately distinguished the Mothman from any ordinary animal. Birds have pupils and irises, but not glowing red orbs that stare unblinkingly from the darkness. The manner of its flight was another perplexing aspect. Witnesses universally described the Mothman as flying silently, without a single flap of its massive wings being heard. Large birds, especially those with wingspans reportedly as wide as 10 feet, create significant noise when they fly, the whoosh of air accompanying their powerful wing beats. Yet, the Mothman was an apparition of silent flight, often keeping pace with speeding cars for miles without making a sound. The speed was also phenomenal, effortlessly matching vehicles traveling at high velocities, a feat impossible for most birds. This flight pattern was erratic, sometimes hovering, sometimes darting, sometimes pursuing with a relentless, almost intelligent purpose. Furthermore, the overall shape and posture of the creature did not align with any bird. It was often described as humanoid in its general stance. Standing on two legs, it possessed a broad chest and, curiously, no discernible head or neck, its head appearing to be sunken directly into its shoulders. This gave it a distinctly non-avian, almost monstrous appearance that could not be reconciled with a misidentified owl or crane. The combination of these features, its immense size, glowing red eyes, silent and swift flight, and unique body structure made the theory of simple misidentification increasingly untenable. While it was always possible for individual, fleeting sightings to be mistaken, the sheer number of consistent, detailed, and terrifying accounts across multiple independent witnesses rendered this explanation insufficient. For those who believed it was a physical creature, yet unknown to science, the term cryptid began to feel more appropriate. It was an animal whose existence was unproven, a hidden beast lurking in the shadows of the natural world, defying conventional classification. As the biological explanations faltered, the discussions inevitably shifted towards more extraordinary and unsettling possibilities. If the Mothman was not a bird, and not a cryptid within the known biological framework, then what was it? This question opened the door to theories that ventured beyond the natural world, into the realms of the alien and the paranormal. One prominent theory suggested that the Mothman was an extraterrestrial visitor. The 1960s were a period of heightened interest in unidentified flying objects, UFOs, with numerous reports of strange lights and craft in the skies across the United States. It was a time when the concept of alien life was firmly in the public consciousness, and many people were quick to connect unexplained phenomena to visitors from other planets. The Mothman's unusual appearance, its glowing eyes, its seemingly impossible flight capabilities, its general strangeness lent itself well to this theory. It did not look like anything from Earth, so perhaps it came from somewhere else. Reports of strange lights in the sky in the Point Pleasant area predated and accompanied the Mothman sightings. Some witnesses claimed to have seen bright, unidentifiable objects flying silently overhead, sometimes in conjunction with or shortly before encountering the Mothman. This led many to speculate that the creature was either an alien being itself, perhaps a scout sent to observe humanity, or a biological entity that had escaped from a crashed UFO. Its silent flight and ability to appear and disappear without a trace further supported the idea that it operated on technologies or principles unknown to terrestrial science. The notion that the Mothman was an alien added another layer of mystery and dread. It was not just an unknown animal, but an intelligence from beyond our world, with unknown intentions, beyond the extraterrestrial. Another set of theories explored the possibility that the Mothman was a paranormal or interdimensional entity. This perspective posited that the creature was not necessarily from another planet, but from another dimension, or was a spiritual being, a demon, or an elemental force. This idea gained traction because the Mothman sightings were not the only strange occurrences plaguing Point Pleasant during this period. The town seemed to become a focal point for a wide range of unexplained phenomena. Residents reported other unsettling events: poltergeist activity in homes, objects moving on their own, strange and unsettling phone calls that delivered garbled messages or unsettling static. Electronic devices would sometimes malfunction inexplicably when the Mothman was reported nearby. There were also accounts of noisy ghosts and other bizarre manifestations that seemed to defy any logical explanation. This clustering of disparate, yet equally inexplicable events led some investigators to believe that the Mothman was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger, complex wave of paranormal activity. A key figure in exploring these non-terrestrial theories was John Keel, a journalist and ufologist. Keel arrived in Point Pleasant to investigate the Mothman sightings and quickly became immersed in the strange reality of the town. He documented hundreds of witness accounts, not just of the Mothman, but of the numerous other oddities. Keel proposed that the Mothman was not a physical creature in the traditional sense, but rather an entity that could manifest in our reality from another dimension or plane of existence. He suggested it might be a trickster spirit, an elemental being, or even a form of conscious energy that could manipulate perceptions and physical reality. This theory explained the creature's ability to appear and disappear suddenly. Its lack of a consistent physical form, some descriptions varied slightly, and its connection to other seemingly unrelated paranormal events. It offered a framework for understanding phenomena that simply did not fit into conventional scientific or biological models. For many, the idea that the Mothman was a manifestation of some dark, unseen force was even more terrifying than the thought of an unknown animal or an alien. As the mysterious sightings continued, a deeper layer of suspicion began to form within the community. If the Mothman was real, and so many people were seeing it, why was there no definitive explanation from authorities? This question led to a chilling new theory: the possibility of a cover-up. Some residents began to suspect that the government or other powerful entities knew more about the creature than they were letting on, and were actively trying to suppress information. This theory was fueled by the appearance of enigmatic figures often referred to as men in black or MIBs. Witnesses reported seeing these strange individuals in Point Pleasant shortly after Mothman sightings. They were consistently described as dressed in identical, ill-fitting black suits, often wearing fedoras, and driving large, black cars. Their behavior was equally unsettling. They would often approach witnesses, asking peculiar questions, sometimes appearing to already know details about the sightings that had not been publicly disclosed. More disturbingly, they would often warn people not to talk about what they had seen, or to change their stories, using subtle intimidation tactics. These men in black became a significant part of the Mothman lore, intertwining with the broader UFO phenomenon, where MIBs were a common trope associated with government attempts to conceal alien encounters. In Point Pleasant, their presence added a layer of paranoia to the already existing fear. Were they government agents, secret military personnel, or something even more sinister? Their mysterious actions and veiled threats instilled a deep distrust in the authorities, making people wonder what secrets were being guarded. The implication was that the Mothman was not just an anomaly, but a secret that powerful forces wanted to keep hidden from the public. Another facet of the cover-up hypothesis revolved around the TNT area itself. The former ordnance plant, with its sprawling, abandoned bunkers and secluded nature, was already a place of mystery. The idea that the government might be conducting secret experiments there was not far-fetched, especially during the Cold War era, when classified military projects were common. Could the Mothman be a result of a failed experiment? A genetically modified creature that had escaped from a clandestine laboratory? Or perhaps a new type of reconnaissance drone? A highly advanced piece of technology being tested in secret. The secrecy surrounding military activities during that period made such theories plausible to a public already wary of government transparency. The thought that the creature terrorizing their town might be a creation of their own government, or an accident from a secret project, was deeply unsettling. It meant that not only was there an unknown threat, but that those in power might be responsible for it or, at the very least, withholding crucial information. This added a layer of betrayal and fear of the unknown to the community's anxieties. Ultimately, these various explanations from biological misidentification to extraterrestrial visitors, paranormal entities, and government cover-ups all contributed to the deepening mystery of the Mothman. Each theory, while attempting to provide clarity, simultaneously highlighted the profound lack of understanding surrounding the phenomenon. The inability of science, folklore, or even conspiracy theories to fully explain the creature only made it more terrifying and enduring. The people of Point Pleasant were left with a pervasive sense of unease, haunted not just by the terrifying sightings themselves, but by the unsettling realization that they might be living amidst something far grander, stranger, and more sinister than they could ever comprehend. The Mothman was not just a creature. It was an enigma that defied all attempts at easy categorization. A dark question mark hanging over their quiet town. As the autumn of 1966 bled into a bitterly cold winter, and then into the spring and summer of 1967, the relentless stream of Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, did not abate. In fact, they seemed to intensify, creating an atmosphere of escalating unease that permeated every corner of the community. The initial shock and fear had slowly morphed into a chronic state of anxiety, a pervasive sense of impending doom that hung heavy over the town like a suffocating fog. It was as if the very air itself crackled with an unspoken tension, a foreboding that something catastrophic was on the horizon. The Mothman, with its glowing red eyes and silent flight, became a chilling symbol of this growing dread. Its appearances grew more frequent and, for many, more ominous. People reported seeing the creature not just in the isolated TNT area, but closer to the town center, flying over homes, perching on buildings, even making fleeting appearances in the daylight. Each sighting, each hushed conversation about the winged entity, tightened the knot of fear in the collective stomach of Point Pleasant. It was no longer just a bizarre local legend. It was a constant, unsettling presence, a harbinger of something indefinable yet terrifying. But the Mothman was not the only anomaly. Point Pleasant, during this tumultuous period, seemed to become a magnet for a myriad of unexplained phenomena. Strange lights were frequently observed in the skies above the town, often described as silent, fast-moving objects that defied conventional explanation. These UFO sightings, sometimes occurring in conjunction with or immediately following Mothman encounters, further blurred the lines between cryptid, alien, and supernatural. Residents reported electrical disturbances, with household appliances malfunctioning without cause, and car radios suddenly blasting static. There were even accounts of poltergeist-like activity in homes, with objects moving on their own, strange noises emanating from empty rooms, and an overall sense of a breakdown in the natural order of things. Adding to the unsettling atmosphere were reports of bizarre telephone calls. People would receive calls where they heard nothing but static, or garbled, unintelligible voices, sometimes accompanied by a strange, high-pitched whine. These calls often followed a Mothman sighting or a visit from the mysterious men in black, leaving recipients feeling watched, targeted, and deeply disturbed. The cumulative effect of these diverse, yet equally inexplicable, occurrences was to create a sense of being under siege, of being observed by forces beyond human comprehension. The town felt like it was teetering on the edge of a precipice, its reality slowly unraveling. Amidst this escalating strangeness, a particular local, Mary Heyer, a columnist for the Point Pleasant Register, became a central figure. She was inundated with calls and letters from residents recounting their experiences. Her column, tied to the news, became a repository for these chilling tales, documenting the growing psychological toll on the community. Mary herself reported strange phenomena, including her telephone being tapped and a menacing figure appearing at her doorstep. Her accounts, grounded in her journalistic credibility, lent further weight to the genuine nature of the panic gripping the town. As December 1967 approached, the sense of foreboding reached a fever pitch. The frequency of Mothman sightings seemed to increase, and the other strange phenomena intensified. It was as if the universe itself was sending frantic, urgent warnings. Though their meaning remained maddeningly obscure, people spoke in whispers of the curse or the bad times, fearing that something truly terrible was about to happen. The beauty of the approaching holiday season was overshadowed by a palpable sense of dread, a chilling certainty that the festive cheer would soon be shattered. December 15th, 1967, began like any other Friday. Point Pleasant residents were going about their pre-holiday routines, many crossing the Silver Bridge, the iconic suspension bridge that spanned the Ohio River, connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio. It was a vital artery for the community, carrying daily commuters, shoppers, and commercial traffic. The bridge was a familiar landmark, a symbol of connection and progress, its gleaming steel structure a constant against the changing seasons. No one could have imagined that this symbol would soon become a monument to tragedy. It was around 5:04 p.m., rush hour. The bridge was packed with cars and trucks, people heading home from work, last-minute Christmas shoppers, families traveling. Suddenly, without warning, a deafening crack echoed across the Ohio River. The sound was not just a snap, but a grotesque, tearing metal shriek that was instantly recognizable as something catastrophic. In a terrifying blink of an eye, the Silver Bridge buckled, one of the I-bar chains, a crucial component of the suspension system, had fractured due to a microscopic flaw and stress corrosion cracking. The failure of this single, vital part initiated a rapid, chain reaction collapse. The entire structure, one 750 feet of steel and concrete, twisted and tore apart, plummeting into the icy waters of the Ohio River below. Cars and their occupants, caught in the sudden, violent descent, were thrown into the frigid depths, their lives extinguished in an instant. The immediate aftermath was pure chaos and horror. The festive lights of Point Pleasant, which moments before had promised holiday cheer, now illuminated a scene of unimaginable devastation. Screams mingled with the groans of twisted metal and the chilling splash of debris hitting the water. Emergency services were immediately mobilized. But the sheer scale of the disaster was overwhelming. Rescuers faced a nightmarish task, searching for survivors in the freezing river, retrieving bodies from the submerged wreckage, and grappling with the shock of a beloved landmark utterly destroyed. 46 people lost their lives in the collapse of the Silver Bridge. 46 individuals, men, women, and children, whose lives were abruptly and tragically ended on that Friday evening. Many more were injured, and countless others were left with profound psychological trauma, bearing witness to the horrific event or losing loved ones. The entire community was plunged into a deep, collective grief, a sorrow that would forever mark the town's history. The holiday season, meant for joy and togetherness, was instead stained with loss and despair. In the wake of this unspeakable tragedy, a chilling question began to emerge, whispered at first, then spoken with increasing certainty. Was the Mothman a prophetic presence? Had it been a harbinger of this very doom? The eerie connection between the creature's prolonged presence and the bridge collapse became an inescapable topic of conversation. Deeply embedded in the trauma of the event, harrowing eyewitness accounts began to surface, linking the Mothman directly to the Silver Bridge in the days and even moments leading up to the disaster. One of the most frequently cited and chilling stories involved a woman who claimed to have seen a large, dark, winged figure perched atop one of the Silver Bridge's towers just days before it collapsed. Her description was consistent with the Mothman, its signature red eyes staring out over the river. She felt an overwhelming sense of dread, a premonition of disaster, as she looked at the creature. Even more disturbing were reports from people who claimed to have seen the Mothman at or very near the bridge on the afternoon of December 15th, just hours before it fell. Commuters, drivers, and local residents reportedly saw the creature flying near the bridge structure, or perched on nearby buildings overlooking the river. While some of these accounts emerged retrospectively, fueled by the trauma and the need to find meaning in the tragedy, the sheer number of them, and their consistency with previous Mothman descriptions, was deeply unsettling. It created a powerful narrative. The Mothman was not just a cryptid, but a supernatural omen, a dark messenger of death. One particularly poignant and often recounted story came from a man named Kenny Aston. He was driving on the bridge shortly before the collapse and claimed to have seen the Mothman flying directly over the bridge, swooping down and around the structure. He felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread, a primal fear that made him want to get off the bridge as quickly as possible. Moments later, the bridge collapsed. While such accounts are difficult to verify definitively, they became crucial to the legend, cementing the Mothman's role as a prophetic warning. The association of the Mothman with the Silver Bridge collapse wasn't merely local speculation. The profound impact of the tragedy and the unusual nature of the Mothman sightings caught the attention of serious investigators. John Keel, The ufologist who had been immersed in the Point Pleasant phenomena was particularly struck by the timing. He had been compiling a vast amount of data on the Mothman, UFOs, and other strange occurrences, and he began to see a pattern. Keel's research suggested that the Mothman and the other phenomena were not merely random events, but were somehow connected to a larger, complex superspectrum of activity that seemed to precede and perhaps even predict disaster. He proposed that the Mothman might be a psychic alarm system or an interdimensional harbinger, its appearances increasing in frequency and intensity before major catastrophes. For the grieving community of Point Pleasant, this connection provided a macabre, albeit terrifying, form of closure. It offered a supernatural explanation for an inexplicable tragedy. The Mothman became intertwined with the memory of the Silver Bridge, its legend forever linked to the 46 lives lost. It was no longer just a monster in the woods. It was the angel of death, a spectral watchman warning of impending doom. The creature, which had initially instilled fear, now invoked a deeper, more profound sense of dread, becoming a symbol of loss, mystery, and the terrifying possibility that the universe communicates its darkest intentions through enigmatic, winged messengers. The question of its role as a harbinger became a chilling, inescapable part of the town's collective memory, a constant reminder that the shadow of the Mothman had indeed preceded a monumental tragedy. The tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge on December 15, 1967, and the preceding Mothman sightings left an indelible mark on Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But what began as a localized terror and a community's profound grief soon transcended the boundaries of a small riverside town. The chilling legend of the Mothman, a winged humanoid creature seen before a catastrophic bridge collapse, burrowed deep into the collective consciousness, evolving from a regional folklore into a globally recognized cryptid and a chilling piece of modern mythology. The story has been recounted, debated, and analyzed for decades, cementing its place in popular culture and forever haunting the landscape of human curiosity. The transformation of the Mothman from a local scare to a cultural phenomenon can largely be attributed to the tireless work of individuals who sought to document and understand the events in Point Pleasant. Foremost among these was John Keel, an American journalist and ufologist, whose seminal 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, became the definitive narrative of the phenomenon. Keel had immersed himself in the strange occurrences of Point Pleasant in the mid-1960s, documenting hundreds of eyewitness accounts of the creature, alongside a plethora of other unexplained phenomena, including UFOs, poltergeist activity, and encounters with the mysterious men in black. His book wove these disparate threads into a compelling, if unsettling, tapestry. Keel's work was not merely a collection of witness statements. It was an attempt to make sense of the seemingly senseless, to explore the possibility of interdimensional entities and the breakdown of consensus reality. He proposed theories that challenged conventional scientific understanding, suggesting that the Mothman might be a psychic entity, an extraterrestrial scout, or a harbinger of disaster, capable of influencing events or manifesting from another plane of existence. His detailed, first-person narrative, combined with the sheer volume of strange occurrences he documented, captivated readers far beyond the realm of cryptid enthusiasts. The book presented the Mothman not just as a creature, but as a complex, multifaceted mystery intrinsically linked to a profound human tragedy. Its success propelled the Mothman story onto a national and then international stage, establishing it as a cornerstone of paranormal literature. Decades later, in 2002, Keel's book was adapted into a major Hollywood film, also titled The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere. This cinematic rendition brought the legend to an even wider, global audience, while fictionalizing certain aspects for dramatic effect. The movie largely retained the eerie atmosphere, the key events, and the central premise of Keel's investigation, the connection between the Mothman sightings and the impending Silver Bridge collapse. The film vividly portrayed the psychological impact of the creature on the town, the chilling encounters, and the sense of foreboding that permeated Point Pleasant. For many, this movie was their first introduction to the Mothman, solidifying its image as a dark, prophetic figure associated with doom. The glowing red eyes, the silent flight, and the underlying mystery were immortalized on screen, ensuring that the legend would continue to fascinate and terrify new generations. Beyond books and films, the Mothman has permeated various facets of popular culture. It is a frequent topic in documentaries, podcasts, and television shows exploring cryptids, unexplained events, and paranormal phenomena. It appears in video games, comic books, and graphic novels, often depicted as a monstrous entity or a mysterious oracle. Merchandise featuring the Mothman, from t-shirts to figurines, is popular among enthusiasts. Cryptid conventions and paranormal investigations regularly feature discussions and presentations on the Mothman, drawing fans and researchers from around the world. It has joined the ranks of legendary creatures like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Chupacabra, but with a unique distinction. Its direct association with a real-world catastrophe lends it a particularly chilling and resonant quality that sets it apart from other cryptids. The Mothman isn't just a monster hiding in the woods. It's a messenger of something terrible, a prophetic omen that taps into humanity's deepest fears of the unknown and of inevitable disaster. This distinction has solidified its enduring appeal, making it a compelling subject for both academic study and campfire tales. While the Mothman became a fascinating cultural phenomenon for many, for the residents of Point Pleasant, its legacy is deeply intertwined with unresolved trauma and enduring grief. The collapse of the Silver Bridge was not merely a news story. It was a profound, life-altering tragedy that tore apart the fabric of their community. 46 lives were lost. Families were shattered, and countless individuals were left with deep emotional scars. The sheer suddenness and scale of the disaster, coupled with the inexplicable Mothman sightings that preceded it, created a unique form of collective psychological impact. The immediate aftermath of the bridge collapse was a period of immense sorrow and chaos. The town was gripped by a pall of grief, as funerals were held, and rescue efforts continued for weeks in the freezing river. For those who survived, and for those who lost loved ones, the memory of that fateful day is etched into their minds. The Mothman, for some, became inextricably linked to this pain. Was it a malevolent entity that caused the disaster? Or was it a benevolent, albeit terrifying, messenger attempting to warn them? A warning that went unheeded. This ambiguity added another layer of complexity to their grief, mingling sorrow with a lingering sense of bewilderment and perhaps even guilt over what might have been. Living in Point Pleasant means living with the dual legacy of the Silver Bridge disaster and the Mothman legend. The town itself became a symbol of this unique intersection of tragedy and mystery. For years, the community struggled to come to terms with its past, to heal from the wounds of loss, while simultaneously grappling with the bizarre events that preceded it. The trauma of 1967 continues to shape the community's perspective, fostering a cautious openness to the unexplained, a quiet understanding that sometimes reality can be far stranger and more terrifying than fiction. In an effort to acknowledge their unique history, remember the victims of the bridge collapse, and embrace the legendary status of the creature. Point Pleasant has established an annual Mothman Festival. This event, typically held in September, draws thousands of visitors from all over the world. It is a remarkable testament to the enduring grip of the legend and the community's resilience. The festival serves a dual purpose. It is a solemn remembrance of the Silver Bridge victims, with memorials and moments of silence, and simultaneously a celebration of the cryptid legend. Attendees can enjoy Mothman-themed merchandise, listen to guest speakers discuss paranormal phenomena, embark on bus tours of the TNT area, and immerse themselves in the unique folklore. This festival, alongside the permanent Mothman Museum and a striking chrome Mothman statue in the town square, symbolizes the community's embrace of its extraordinary past. It is a way for Point Pleasant to reclaim its narrative, to honor its history, and to invite others to share in its captivating, if unsettling, story. The Mothman, once a source of terror, has become a complex symbol of the town's identity, a tangible reminder of both its deepest tragedy and its most enduring mystery. Despite decades of investigation, extensive media coverage, and countless theories, the true nature of the Mothman remains one of the most compelling and frustratingly persistent unsolved mysteries of the modern era. The core question: does the Mothman truly exist? And if so, what dark messages does it carry? Continues to echo, leaving a pervasive sense of unease and a lingering question in its wake. Designed to provoke thought rather than offer closure, the lack of definitive physical evidence is a major factor contributing to the enduring mystery. Unlike some cryptids where hoaxes or misidentifications often leave behind some form of tangible, if misleading, evidence, the Mothman left almost nothing. There is no body, no clear, undisputed photograph, no feather, no fur, no definitive biological sample that has ever been authenticated. The evidence rests almost entirely on eyewitness testimony, which, while powerful and often consistent in its descriptions, is inherently subjective and difficult to verify scientifically. This absence of concrete proof allows for an endless array of interpretations and keeps the mystery alive, as no single theory can be definitively proven or disproven. The various explanations explored by investigators and enthusiasts, from the creature being a misidentified sandhill crane or an unusually large owl, to it being an alien entity, a paranormal manifestation, or a result of secret government experiments, all ultimately fall short of providing a conclusive answer. The consistent features described by witnesses often defy biological logic, making misidentification difficult to sustain. The lack of any crash site or advanced technology makes the alien theory hard to prove. The very nature of paranormal phenomena makes them resistant to scientific inquiry. And government cover-ups, by definition, aim to leave no verifiable trace. Each theory has its proponents and detractors, but none has managed to definitively explain away the phenomenon to the satisfaction of all. The enduring power of the Mothman legend also lies in its ability to challenge our understanding of reality and the limits of human knowledge. It forces us to confront the possibility that there are phenomena in the world that operate outside the established laws of science. Creatures or entities that defy categorization. It taps into a primal human fascination with the unknown, the dark corners of the world that remain unexplored, and the secrets that might lie just beyond our perception. The Mothman stands as a potent symbol of these untamed mysteries, a constant reminder that the universe may hold secrets far grander and stranger than our current understanding allows. The human psychological response to such an enigma also plays a crucial role in its persistence. The Mothman story is not just about a creature. It's about fear, trauma, prophecy, and the search for meaning in the face of chaos. When a community experiences such a profound tragedy as the Silver Bridge collapse, there is a natural human need to understand why. The Mothman, as a potential harbinger, offers a terrifying but also compelling framework for understanding the inexplicable. It suggests that there might have been a warning, a message delivered, even if it was not fully comprehended at the time. This gives a sense of order to chaos, even if that order is dark and unsettling. In the end, the questions posed by the Mothman remain unanswered. Does it truly exist as a physical entity? Is it a psychic projection, a spirit, or something else entirely? What messages, if any, does it carry? Is it a guardian, a malevolent force, or merely an observer? These questions are precisely why the legend continues to captivate. It challenges us to look beyond the mundane, to question the boundaries of what we believe is possible, and to acknowledge that some mysteries are so profound that they may never be fully solved. The Mothman, with its glowing red eyes, continues its silent vigil, a timeless enigma that forever haunts the landscape of human curiosity. A stark reminder that some dark messages may forever remain just beyond our grasp. Point Pleasant still holds its breath, forever marked by the winged entity. The silence of the night whispers tales of red eyes and impending doom. The Mothman watches, its true nature shrouded in shadows. Thank you for daring to delve into the unknown with Gravevale Echoes. If these whispers from the past captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows.